SS Asturias was a Royal Mail Steam Packet Company ocean liner that was built in Ireland in 1908. Asturias was a member of the RMSP's A series of passenger liners on the Southampton, Buenos Aires route. Harland and Wolff built her on slip number 6 of its south yard in Belfast, Ireland. She was launched on September 26, 1907 and completed on January 8, 1908. The Asturias was 520 feet long and had a beam of 62 feet and a depth of 31 feet. Her tonnage was 12,000 gross registered tons. She had 2 screws, each driven by a 4-cylinder quadruple expansion steam engine. Between the 2 engines, she had a total of 924 horsepower. There was an Anglo-German arms race before the First World War, and in 1913 the Admiralty armed most of the RMSP's A-liner series as defensively equipped merchant ships. The Asturias was armed with 2 QF 4.7-inch guns. However, just before the First World War, the Admiralty decided to use the Asturias as a hospital ship instead. Her first-class smoke room was converted into an operating theater. Her dining room was converted into a ward for about 85 patients. Cabin partitions were removed to create other wards. Her children's dining room was converted into bathrooms. Radiology and disinfecting facilities were installed. Her total capacity was for about 896 patients. The Asturias was painted in the hospital ship livery of a white hull with a broad green band punctuated by large red crosses. On August 5, 1914, one day after the UK entered the war, the Asturias left Southampton for the Royal Navy anchorage at Scrapper Flow. She was soon sent to Le Havre in northern France, where she embarked wounded troops from the British Expeditionary Forces. The Asturias' duties took her mostly to French and Mediterranean ports, from St. Naturel on the Bay of Biscayne to the Gallipoli campaign in Turkey. She also visited Sri Lanka and Egypt. On the occasion, she carried 2,400 sick and wounded back to the UK, more than twice the number she was equipped to carry. On February 1, 1915, a German U-boat fired a torpedo that struck the Asturias but failed to detonate. A month later, Germany released a press statement claiming that the Asturias was misidentified and that once the U-boat crew realized their mistake, it broke off the attack. In the spring of 1916, King George V visited Asturias, and later that year, J.R.R. Tolkien returned to the UK aboard her. On October 27, 1916, as his battalion attacked the Virginia Trench in the Battle of Somme, he had caught trench fever. Tolkien was taken invalidated to England on November 8, 1916, and remembered there being saltwater baths on board. On March 20, 1917, the Asturias disembarked 1,000 wounded men at Avonmouth. She then sailed for Southampton, but that night off Stark Point, Devon, the German U-boat U-66 torpedoed her. Her machine spaces flooded quickly, and her master ordered her crew and medical staff to abandon ship. Because her engine room was flooded, the controls to shut down her engines could not be reached. Therefore, she was still slowly underway when her crew launched her lifeboats, and some of the occupants of one boat were drowned. The Asturias was down by her stern and listing to port, but as she was still underway, she made her way for shore. Her master managed to beach her near Bolt's Head. There she lowered her remaining boats, in which her survivors made landfall at Salacombe. A month later, the Asturias was refloated and taken to Plymouth. There she was dry docked, and the damage was found to be so extensive that she was not repaired until after the end of the war. She was declared a total loss. In 1920, the RMSP bought the damaged hulk and had her towed to Belfast. Shipyards were busy building new tonnages to replace the lost vessels in the war, so the Asturias repairs and refit did not begin until 1922. The RMSP had her converted into a cruise ship, which included turning some of her cargo holds into passenger accommodations, making her cabins more spacious and adding more public rooms. At the same time, she was converted from coal to oil fuel. The work took a year, at the end of which the RMSP renamed her the Arcadian. The Arcadian cruised the Mediterranean and West Indies from 1923 to October 1930, when she was laid up. In 1933, Amasuka Game Kanisa of Japan bought her for £13,700 for scrap.